Hello, boys. This is White Pill Media, and welcome back to the Trough. First thing, I want to say sorry there wasn't an upload last weekend, but we have a full Trough this weekend to make up for it. We got a lot to talk about. We got some new authors for covering. It's a mixed match with books, some comics, some movies, some whatever, right? We got full Trough for you, we got some slop, we got some in-between, we got some apples bobbing around, a lot of good stuff. Things we're going to be talking about today. We have one, Mixtape Hyperborea. This is about a young man. He's about to graduate high school, and it's just sort of about his life. There's not so much of a big plot. There's not so much of like that, but it's good. It's like nostalgic, and it's written very well. It's a little harder to describe. I'll get into it a little later, but I definitely recommend that one. It's very good. I've had this one in my reading pile for a while, and I wish I'd gotten to it sooner. I really enjoyed it. We have The Curse of the Star Wraiths. This one is not a recommendation, and I'm going to cover that later. My goal with this channel has never been to drag anyone, like an indie author or anything like that, but I still want to talk about it. We have two comics I'm going to briefly talk about. I thought these were fine, not really bad, but just fine, not so good that I felt I should dedicate videos to them alone. We have the Death Tales of Ulster. This is a collection of stories from Irish mythology, in particular the Ulster cycle, and these are tragic, right? And this was fine. The art style is something that you'll like or something that you really won't enjoy. And the Hound focuses on Cuchulainn. Cuchulainn is this big figure in Irish mythology. He is most famous for being in the Cattle Raid of Cooley, the Toyne, as it's called. And that one was fine as well. It's its own kind of weird take on it. And yeah, that was okay. Two movies I will barely touch on at the end are The Stuff and Flight of the Phoenix. Those are both not really great. But we're just going to hop right in, I thought I'd try something a little new, for Trough videos. I don't think I'll have one next week, but I thought, I bake, I try baking every now and then, and I tried making some macaroons, and they turned out awful. They were really bad. I ate a few, and then I threw the rest out. I think it was kind of a shitty recipe, but also my fault. And yeah, I don't know, but I think for every Trough video, I'm going to try baking something new. And even though the cookies were not good, I really liked some of the material we're covering this week. But I thought it'd be something to try, something different. Now you can, look forward to the Trough videos. Ooh, what do you make this time? I know that's why people are here. I know that's why people come to this channel. I have timestamps and links down below if you just want to hop to whatever. If you're only interested in me talking about this one thing, go to that. Links to purchase books below. Mixtape Hyperborea, I really recommend buying this one. I really recommend reading this one before watching this video. You can come back to this video anytime. Without getting into spoilers, just talking about it a little bit, this is a bit of a weird one. This novel comes with a soundtrack, and it has italics in the book, so you can turn on that song when you read that chapter. I did not do that. I just listened to the full mixtape at the end. It's 26 songs. I knew some of them, but this book is set in 2007, so that's, our main character's graduating in 2007, somewhat before my time, without, going super doxy. So I didn't know all of these songs, really. I knew some of them, some of them are kind of big, and I like some of them, but it wasn't exactly nostalgic for me. It was definitely weird to have a soundtrack with a book. I thought that was interesting. And then on our author's note, it also says it also gets really good around chapter 6, and that is true. Chapter 6 is very good. That was a weird author's note. We also have pictures from a yearbook. They're spread out throughout the book, as long as some other stuff. But it looks like a older time, nostalgia even for that. This doesn't look like 2007 or around then. And it's not just like the photos being in black and white. I don't know. I don't know if these have a higher meaning or if it's just something that the author just like picked, online or something. I'm not really sure. It's like nostalgic even though it's before my time. It's like it's really well written. However, we have a main character who I don't believe he's named, unless I missed it, but if he is named, it happens like once in the very beginning and never again. Rudderless, and sure if it like, it's kind of going with the flow, right? It's kind of going with the flow, so it's not really plot heavy, and it's not like characters are going through these deep dramatic arcs, but still really, really well written. And I would absolutely buy this author. I think he's very good. Yeah, like it's kind of interesting to say it's really good, but like in terms of like plot or character development, I don't know what to say. I don't really know what to say with that. But it's definitely funny. They're definitely really funny bits overall. Just very nice. If that's a selling point for you, go for it. Maybe skip ahead to the rest of this video or not. But go check out Mixtape. Don't spoil it for yourself. Even though it's not really heavy plot focused, I still think you'd want to go in like fresh, right? You'd want to go in blind. Now we're getting into spoilers. Okay, so we have our main character who is not named, and we never get to know too much about him. I'll get into it when the stuff we do get to know, but now I'm just going to kind of flip through the book, talk about some of the notes I took, and yeah, so it's 2007. Our main character is a high school senior character. He's not really named, right? He doesn't get a name. We don't get so much of like goals. What does he want to do after high school? We don't really get that. We just know that he's friends with Mickey and Josh. He hasn't had sex yet. And he's a kind of just going with the flow, kind of a class clown, right? He has a funny moment on page 8 and 9 where this girl's talking about her pet rat who just died, and he says, I don't think your rat had a soul, and she's getting upset. And then his friend Josh stands up and he says, I just want to say that I believe Minerva's rat did have a soul, but that's probably burning in hell, and everyone loses it. And yeah, it talks about entropy, right? It just talks about entropy, gentle entropy, just letting things kind of come together. He's not really forcing things. He kind of just esoteric. I guess it's more like that crowd, like vaporwave maybe. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with those guys. But kind of along that crowd, like the weightlifting, like spirituality, yeah, whatever. Those types of people. They're not all bad. He's also just kind of an observationalist. On page 20, we have him pointing out this kid. They're doing like this group project. Rachel Small did most of the work because she's smart and she cares. Charlie Pantano did nothing because he has fetal alcohol syndrome. The book itself is not terribly long. It's a little over 200 pages. Well, no, it's about 228 pages. And on page 23, we're at chapter 6. This is when the book gets good, quote unquote. And it does. It does get good here. This is the sleepover. And we jump back in time. We're like in 6th, 7th grade. I think we're in 7th grade. Where this is where he meets his friends, Josh, the Mexican kid, and yeah, their little crew, and their plan is, they're getting together for their friend TJ's sleepover, and their big plan is they're going to get dropped off at the movies by TJ's mom, and then their plan is to not go see Kangaroo Jack. I think I've seen that, like when it like came out, that was a long time ago, but I think I do remember Kangaroo Jack. Not too much of it, but I think I remember it. But they're going to go see this movie 8 Mile, and I had no idea what this was. Apparently this is about Eminem, and yeah, I don't really listen to Eminem's stuff or rap music too much, but I don't know. There's a lot of Eminem in this book, right? But 8 Mile, apparently that's a movie about him. So whatever, right? So they're going to go see 8 Mile. One thing I want to point out. Page 32, song lyrics, they're in italics, right? We have that. But on page 32, we have the song lyrics in italics. Then we have Miss Geiger didn't complain about the lyrics. Instead, she waved her hands in the air like a gang member and laughed. TJ was annoyed and told her to stop. And then we have Everyone else's parents were cooler than my own. Everyone else's pantry had sweeter cereals and name brand chips. I thought I would do just fine as an emancipated minor with some kind of welfare stipend. I don't know if these are lyrics to another song. I don't know if this is something from Eminem or it's quoting something, or if these were just thoughts from our main character, because we don't get too much about his personal life, about his family. I don't know. Like, I was a little confused because they kind of feel like these could be song lyrics, right? Like Eminem rapping about being poor or whatever. But I went over the Forgot About Dre featuring Eminem's song, and I don't think any of the other songs I listened to, I only listened to most of them just once, but I don't think any of those had these lyrics. But I don't know if this is a reference to something or not. Whatever. If these are his thoughts, then he's kind of poor. He's kind of poor. He's insecure, right? Yeah, there's that. But for them, their night is like playing Mortal Kombat. They're eating pizza, you know. You think they'd be playing Halo, you know. In my day, it was like Halo 2 and Star Wars Battlefront 2. That was it. That was the jam. And your dad renting Halo 3 from Blockbuster so many times, it would have just made more sense to buy us our own copy. That's nostalgia. That's nostalgia. But they're watching TV and stuff. And, page 39, I think I only ran into like 2 mistakes in this book, and this is one of them, but very small. Page 39, the woman waved him off. She asked the older guy, is he really wanted the younger guy sloppy seconds? Then the younger guy kissed her again for a long time right in front of him. It should just be if. But really small, but there's that, and there's one more later on. We'll get into that later on. But the boys' big plan is to sneak out, and they're going to sneak out, and they're going to go to Waffle House after their parents are asleep. Even though like it's something very silly, it's something very safe, or relatively safe, it's still, there's this adventure, there's this danger there. But they go out, they encounter some diversity. There's a little incident there of a skateboard, and yeah, some people outside. But it all works out, and they feel cooler by association for having witnessed the events and their friend going apeshit. Well, they go to Waffle House, and that's just it. It's very daring for these 7th grade boys to go do this. But when they get back, they like turn on porn, and everyone is like, they go off into a different corner of the room, and they're just beating off to it. And I really hope this isn't like real. I really hope that this isn't, some like story that the author is recounting. I hope not, but maybe it is. I don't know. I had a friend who, he had a fraternity in college, and apparently they had something called pizza and porn night, where they would eat pizza and then just like watch porn in the living room or something. And I don't fucking get that. That's a little fucking gay. But whatever, we're moving on. What's the story? What's the plot for this book at this point? I'm like, is this the story of how he loses his friends? But he still has Josh in his senior year as a friend, right? So I don't know. I don't know if this is about the breakup of that. I don't know exactly what it was before I finished it. And I'm like, I guess there really wasn't much of a point. But chapter 7, we have a break in POV. We have Mr. Andrews. He's a teacher at the school. And we have his POV. This is in third person, whereas the chapters with our main character are in first, but sometimes it switches a little. Sometimes it goes into second, which is a little odd. And the POV shifts a little bit. I never found it too distracting, but so Mr. Andrews' POV, he's in third person. He watches like the first graders during recess. And while he's doing that, we have Mrs. Barry, who is a counselor at the school, and he's kind of attracted to her, but they just talk, and it's all right. But I felt with the Mr. Andrews chapter here, it was a little odd, like, okay, is this going to be connected more with our main character? Are these plot lines going to kind of tie together? But I'll get into that later on. Page 60, I just have in my notes, it made me laugh. There's a lot of really great back and forth between like Josh and our main character. I'm just going to talk about some of it on page 60. Love a good mind beat. Glad you're avoiding the harder stuff. Yeah. Did you think you're your boyfriend when you did it? I don't have a boyfriend and I'm not gay, he explains. Is that what you would say if it was opposite day? I inquire. If it was opposite day, you'd say something like, I am not the victim of a failed sex change operation. It did make me laugh. Good stuff. We have, and speaking of just changing POVs and such, we have chapter 10, We have Josh's POV. He only has one chapter of his POV, but it's just him going into the school bathroom and jerking off when he should be in class, which is it's fine, but it's just a little odd why it's here. It's a little odd, but it's not like horrible. Chapter 12, we're back to Mr. Andrews. He has the school meeting. He kind of like, he's rushing. He just rushes through his life, and he's like, what is he rushing towards? Because he's just sitting in his house at the end, but just bored, not doing anything. And he goes outside, and he just gets hit by a car. And I'm like, is he dead? Is that it? What was the point? I don't know. I thought he was dead. But on page 77, so our next chapter, we're with our main character, and he's giving Josh and Mickey a ride home. They're high. He's driving high. And I thought 12 obviously leads into 13, where, our main guy is driving. And on page 77, he has a good driver, also doesn't look too far out ahead, else he might hit a roaming pedestrian. I'm like, did he hit Mr. Andrews? But no, that does not happen. So I felt it was a little weird, like, why is Mr. Andrews hit by a car? Even though that doesn't happen, there's no connection to our main character or that. I felt that was too deliberate to go from hit by a car to them driving around high. I don't know if it was supposed to build some kind of tension that ultimately didn't culminate in anything, but whatever. Chapter 14, we have our new POV. This is Will Barry, husband of Mrs. Barry, right? So it's just like him having a fight with his wife. He's kind of being a little bitch about it. He's being really passive aggressive. Not that she's great either. But it's just a few pages where they're fighting. They have some problems in their marriage. His wife leaves in anger, and then he jerks off thinking of her best friend as she's gone. And then when she comes back, they're initiating sex, and then he has some toilet paper on his dick, right? And they end up not having sex because she thinks that it's gross. Page 96. Apparently, girl ducks only have one hole, and it's just one hole. It's just a vagina, a asshole, a piss hole. It's just one hole for everything. So it's just, I don't know. It's just there. The book felt it was important to tell me that information. So now I know, right? Now I know because I didn't know that before. We have an interaction. I thought this was going to be kind of more of a converging of plot points or characters with Mr. Andrews. It's Josh and friends. They're in English class, and they're passing a note back and forth about girls in class they would fuck and all the depraved sexual shit they would do to them. They end up laughing in class, so Mr. Andrews takes the note. He hasn't looked at it yet, but then all of a sudden, the fire alarm goes off. So the fire alarm goes off, and then everyone exits the room, and then they look at Mr. Andrews' bag. They find the note, and Mickey runs and he eats the note. And then Josh writes a fake note on it. And that little drama, that little something that could have, escalated kind of the book, nothing comes of it. It's kind of a deflation. I felt this was a little too convenient, writing the note. And then I felt just the destruction of the note. It's just too convenient. I don't know what I want to happen. Maybe they get in trouble. Maybe there's just a little something more going on. Basically, I just felt the destruction of the note was a little too convenient. It was just, a little too easy for them. But we have some interesting points on page 105 from our MC. Soon I'll be somewhere else. I'm in no rush. I'm in the opposite of a rush, where he's he's not rushing towards anything. He's kind of like Mr. Andrews, maybe. He's kind of the opposite of Mr. Andrews, where our main character is kind of enjoying life and Andrews is kind of rushing through it. I don't know. There's a little, some threads there, I guess. 18, we're back with Mr. Andrews. He was hit by the car, but he's back in school now. I don't know why he was hit by a car if, you're not really going to do anything with it. And Mrs. Barry complains about her husband, and he feels a little buzz and that things are going pretty well. He likes talking to her. He's attracted to Mrs. Barry. Chapter 21. Sorry. No, we have 19. Nothing happens there. Nothing happens with 20. 21. Yes. Chapter 21. We have New Year's. This is a big New Year's party. It's the countdown to literally nothing, so our MC is not exactly excited for it. But they're at this party, they're having a good time, whatever. He is interested in this one girl. They've been kind of noticing each other at the party. So I'm just going to talk about this. Page 126. It's an unprecedented move in my romantic history, driven entirely by impulse and divine inspiration. Want to go get a drink, I ask. Yeah, she says, getting up from her seat. I take her hand and lead her to the garage. It all feels natural. She's wearing a pale blue dress. She's amply proportioned with a gorgeous Sephardic face, thin pretty features, and a dirty auburn hair. Ponytail, sorry. She's pale blue dress, amply proportioned, with a gorgeous Sephardic face. And I'm like, Sephardic? That sounds familiar. I know that word. Where's that word from? So I looked it up, but he ends up getting a blowjob from this girl. Her name is Michelle.
Soon the great journey shall begin. But when it does, the weight of your heresy will stay your feet, and you shall be left behind.
Right. And then page 129 through 131, we have, it's 2008, it's Welcome to the Future, and the year begins with literally a dumpster fire. There were some fireworks, and they just set some shit on fire. And then on the drive back home, he tells his friends that he got this blowjob from this girl, and then he's disappointed because his friends feel inauthentic. They say, nice, good job, but they have this lack of enthusiasm. And then he's questioning like the depth of their solidarity. He's kind of questioning everything else because he really relies on these guys. That was a very nice chapter. Then we have this intermission. Chapter 23, Mr. Andrews needs his class to be quiet, and then we have more interaction with Mrs. Barry, where she says things are bad with her husband. They have this nice time together, this good conversation, and she's talking about she thinks that they're similar, but he doesn't go forward with it. He doesn't press it. He doesn't, escalate the situation, because he's not just this delusional teacher that thinks that this woman's like really attracted to him. She's obviously like into him as well, but he's hesitant. He's taking his sweet time. Even though he's in a rush for everything else, he's not rushing here, and that's kind of a mistake. We'll get into it. Parents, we don't have much information out of them overall. On page 146, we have his dad telling him to shut the fuck up so he can get some more sleep. We have that. And then we had, there's not too much said about his home life. If those were his thoughts, not lyrics earlier on, I guess they're pretty poor. But on 155, we had, they're talking about their parents. He says, mine argue all the time, but I don't think they'll ever get divorced. They're used to the conflict. They gain energy from, marital warfare. Your mom could do so much better, dude. I know. And it seems like, his mom seems to be nicer, but he's disparaging towards his dad. And the one time, we see his dad, he seems to be kind of a piece of shit. They're just, people watching at the mall. Right, and I don't know, I haven't been to a mall in a really long time. We're somewhere in the south, we have palm trees. On page 181, there's talk of oranges, so I don't know if we're in Florida or just some southern state. I don't know where else you'd have oranges in the U.S. Georgia, maybe? I'm not too sure, but I think probably Florida or something like that. But we have palm trees, so yeah. 159... They're going to this comedy club. It's like an open mic night, but our main character is describing some of the women there. We have the girl in charge of the lobby. Her hair is black with one pink streak dyed in the front. It mostly covers her face. As we're walking up the stairs, she pulls her bangs back with lengthy purple nail extensions. I would, honestly. And then later on, we take seats right as the next performer is welcomed to the stage. She's a short and chubby Cuban girl. I would, honestly.
Soon the great journey shall begin. But when it does, the weight of your heresy will stay your feet, and you shall be left behind.
I can play that clip as I see fit. This is my fucking channel. This is my fucking video, and I'll use that clip as many times as I damn well please. Whatever. Anyways. This is what you get with the esoteric weightlifting crowd. What the fuck? Continuing on, page 169. Oh, this is what I believe is the second mistake. I might just be a retard, but they're going home from the comedy club. Like it's just like there's this weird thing where like Mickey freaked out because like he's being recorded, without like his permission. It's like it's just going online. It's like that's kind of interesting, right? I feel like people are just a lot more kind of nervous. You know what I mean? There's just like going outside. And it's like if you do something embarrassing or stupid or whatever, someone could just pull out their phone, film it, and it's online forever. And you're just like you're humiliated forever. And it's not even necessarily like humiliation, but someone just like recording you all the time. But that was kind of interesting. Josh walks over the door and tries to open it. It's locked from the outside. It's fine, man. Let's just go home. We drive home in relative silence. So, okay, we're at the bottom of 169. We drive home in relative silence. Next, page 170. There was something more sinister than previously believed about capturing and crystallizing of real life into artificial images. Eventually, we find the Camry. I pull out of the parking lot. The thought of smoking ever again makes me sick. I resolve to drop the stuff entirely. It's a long, endless drive home. So I feel like the first we drive home in relative silence is like wrong or misplaced. And I'm like, am I retarded? But we're like driving home twice, right? Like we're driving home twice. Like, I don't know. I'm stupid. And then I question myself. And then, yeah, there's that. Anyways, we got, where are we? 131. Oh, our second POV chapter, Will Barry. This is our second POV chapter, Will Barry. And he's just like a little bitch. They're like having this divorce. She's screaming at him, get the fuck out. I want a fucking divorce and all that. And then Mrs. Barry's been pickling foods. And he notices her pickle jars arranged in rows along the countertop. One by one, he tightened them. With all his might, he squeezed them shut. He imagined her alone, failing to open them, ruining the day. That's good. That's really, really good. It's so petty. It's so fucking small, but it's really good. 32. We have Andrews again. Mrs. Barry says that she's leaving for private practice, and Andrews feels robbed of the time they'll miss. And like they enjoy their time together, but he doesn't make his move. He doesn't make his move, and it's just over, right? He's not rushed. And now it's just like, it's kind of too late. Like he could probably say something right now and they could have something together, but that's not going to happen. He doesn't do anything. It's just kind of like a wasted potential there. Okay, kind of winding down in the book, we have the senior trip. 191, we have a little reflection from my main character talking about it feels bad to want drugs, though. It feels bad to realize you enjoy certain things less without drugs. I don't know. I've never smoked weed. I don't think I'd want to try. Like, I think I kind of have an addictive personality type of deal, and that'd probably be a bad idea to, like, try and then kind of develop a habit with it. So, whatever. There's that. So, they're on this bus. They're taking this trip, and there's this girl, Sarah, that he's kind of into, and there's this word game, like, if feet fly, hands fly, and ears fly, do bellies fly? I don't get it. They do that a lot. Like, if this can fly, that can fly. Can this fly? I don't understand. I'm dumb. I don't know if it's like a real thing, and I just don't get it. But whatever. They're going to this aquarium. They're like doing snorkeling. They're just doing a lot of that stuff. We have 203. Is this the book's meaning? I just float back and forth, and back and forth. I let God move me in whatever direction he chooses, whatever rhythm. It feels like being in tune. It's hard to figure out which lessons should be learned. I don't know. Is that our meaning? Is that it? There's no direction. There's nothing. Like, I'm not too sure. Well, I have a 2.4 GPA, says Josh, so definitely in state. I might even have to go to community college with the other undesirables. Nice. Yeah, I don't know yet, I say, and I truly don't. Every year of my life so far has been planned out, 1st through 12th grade. I guess college is just the next step. And yeah, he's going along with it. There's no real development of like what exactly he wants. They're doing this tour in D.C. They meet a congressman, see a few museums, and fill out some more worksheets. A chaperone pulls Josh and I aside and says, we can't keep saying wrist check every time we pass one of the emo kids. Every time we pass one of the emo kids, we continue to say wrist check. Very good, very funny. 223. So they're at this party, the senior trip's over. Reflection from our main character. I remember mom explaining something about inherited trauma on the way to get my driver's license. She said her grandparents' memories of the Holocaust could still live inside her and occasionally surface from familiar stimuli. So, anyways, right. So the implication here being that, our main character's mother or her grandparents are Jewish, and therefore our main character's mother is Jewish, and then therefore our main character is Jewish. So I don't know. We don't get a lot from our main character about his parents. So I don't know if this is kind of a hee ha ha thing from the author. I'm not sure. I didn't lose any sleep over it. Didn't check out the author's Twitter, comb through that and check out some of his podcast appearances where he talks about the book. No, I didn't lose sleep over it. So, anyways, whatever. I will say I recommend the movie Friends of Eddie Coyle. I think it's really good. Maybe, depending, I might have to, take this guy out to a Bruins game. We'll get a little wine, a little steak. It'll be nice. I don't know. Yeah, it kind of depends. So he's with this girl, Sarah, and Sarah, she's been like accepted into NYU and everyone's really excited for her. And she has this nice talk, she has this nice little dialogue here. It's just what you're supposed to do, she says. You're like supposed to go to the best school possible in the biggest city possible and live it up or something. It definitely sounds fun, but it also seems tiring. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to find there. I'm happy here. I have my parents, I have my dog. I don't have that many friends, but I have a few really good ones like Emerson, even though she's kind of a bitch. I'm just happy. I don't want anything else. And I want things to stay the same. Is that so bad? I don't think that's bad, I say. I think that's beautiful. I think it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. There's a period of silence. I lean in and kiss her. She kisses me back. And then we have a sex scene. So our main character, he has had sex, he has had sex, so there's that. He's no longer a virgin, right? Good for him, I guess. Losing your virginity in high school, I guess that's an accomplishment for some people. But our book ends very quickly there, where they're driving around with Josh and Mickey and Sarah, and they go to the Pioneer Mall, and they have this fire extinguisher, and they're just doing donuts in the parking lot while they're firing the fire extinguisher, and there's this all this white smoke around them, and yeah, they're just admiring it, and then the wind blows it all away, and that's it. He spends his last night with his friends and with Sarah. What will our main character do? Is he going to college? What's his plan? Is this just the next step? Is he going to be with Sarah? Because Sarah doesn't seem too excited for NYU. I don't know. I don't know. In terms of the Mr. Andrews and Mrs. Barry, was that it? Was that it between them? It's just she's going away and he's not really going to fight for her, and that's it. I guess. I will say, overall, I really enjoy this, but there is this, lack of drive. It's kind of rudderless, right? Our main character doesn't even have a name, right? He doesn't even have a name, and there aren't, not that every book, needs, super deep character development, but I would say there's not really much of anything here in terms of, an arc or in terms of, a plot so much. It's just, funny bits in high school, good moments in high school. And that's not so bad. I really liked it. I think it's well written. I would definitely read more from this author. Absolutely. I want to read more from this guy. But we have, just these little, threads where it's Will Barry gets 2 chapters in his POV, and they're funny, they're well written, but it's also, why are they necessarily here? Why are they necessarily in the book, right? Even the Mr. Andrews, I suppose he's kind of a contrast to our MC a little bit, but it felt a little underwhelming, how his chapters with Mrs. Barry ended. So I don't know, maybe like more of a connection to the threads. I'm not sure. I think I could, yeah, used a little more of that. I don't know, like, what exactly I would want to happen because it just felt like kind of a senior year of high school, right? So maybe there didn't have to be something like huge or dramatic going on for it to still be enjoyable. Anyway, yeah, that's it. That's Mixtape Hyperborea. I definitely went on like really long for it, but I liked it a lot. Plenty to talk about. I don't know about this back cover. I don't know if these like New York Times, Jezebel, LA Weekly, I think these are fake because I don't think any mainstream publication would, no offense, would like review this book unless like, I don't know if you can pay publications to like review your book or not. Either way, funny. Oh, I forgot. Like they mock the Asian kid by doing an Asian accent like all the time. That's funny. That's good. Yeah, I'm really glad I read this. Very nice. Anyways, so now we're hopping on to other books, hopping onto Curse of the Star Wraiths. Right. So this is not a recommendation from me. I want to say to begin with, I don't like dragging people, especially like indie authors. I don't like doing it, but I am going to talk about the book. I'm going to be honest about my thoughts, about my feelings about the book. And it's not a recommendation. And would I read more by this author? Probably not, if I'm being completely honest. But, if it changed a lot, I don't know, they do another book, kind of a maybe, right? I'll throw it up as a maybe. Overall, I would say for this book, I felt that pacing was a very serious issue, is a very serious problem. That kind of defines like the majority of all my problems with the book is pacing. And we'll get into it. It's about a 200-page book. It's kind of like a fantasy adventure thing. It's about two brothers, Sarathos and Zoland. They're 13 and 15. If you want to check out the book for yourself, it sounds interesting. They're like brothers. They're fighting against this oppressive empire. And there's like some magic and like city that's under siege. And they go to like, they're first there to like assault it. But then they're there to help the people from like the empire that they have to like serve. So maybe check it out if you're interested. Otherwise, full spoilers going in. So these boys, they're 13 and 15. I will say there are some nice illustrations in the book. I did like the art, but we open up in a storm. We have a storm with these two brothers and these two boys. They're on their way to visit their mother's grave, and they get separated during this horrible storm. And then there's the storm god that appears to Zoland, and he imbues him with these like powers. And then we cut to these Ilgrathians. These are a like superior decadent race. They rule over the humans, right? And this woman here, she is a falconer. She leads them, and she has a human sorcerer, Adis, with her. And she's also called General Sayerst. And they serve a goddess called Ilgrathi, or I think that's it. But they're there. They know that like a human sorcerer has been like awakened, and they're there to kill this threat before it becomes a problem. And so they go to this little village. General Sayerst ends up cutting off the arm of their father, Kolthen, and their people are taken away as slaves. Their village is burned. There's all this going on, right? So then they're taken to the city of Murangil. They get there at about page 31. There's some thing where like their father's being taken away to like a soul cistern where like his soul is going to be extracted or something. But we have a little like dialogue between General Sayerst and Adis and like their goddess Queen Ilgrathi, where they're going to start an invasion to the south, and their enemies are the Islarians. And I will say that that's another like kind of minor annoyance, where we have the Ilgrathians, who are like the superior decadent race, and then we have the Islarians. Their names are way too similar. I think that's a pretty big that was an annoyance. Maybe there's a reason behind it, because they all like descend from like one line or something, but I felt the names were too similar and kind of annoying. But the boys are meanwhile dropped off into the slave pits. This happens on page 44. There's a lot of telling here, like a lot of sped up scenes where like the boys are like fighting off people who are trying to like eat them, because they're tossed in the slave pits and they're not given enough food. So it's like eat or be eaten. And then there's also like, so it's like cannibals and rapists down there, but it's like very sped up. It's a lot of telling, not enough showing. And I know showing can be like overdone. I think telling works sometimes. Like I don't think there's anything like inherently wrong with telling. You can't obviously show everything, but like this feels like really important stuff, like them like surviving, and it's just, yeah, it just feels like too sped up. This is kind of my problem with like the pacing, where on page 52, it has been 2 years. 2 years have gone by, and this has been the span of about like 8 pages. So like in 8 pages, 2 whole years have passed. And these are supposed to be like formative, very hard, bad years for these boys. They're working as like slaves in this mine and all of that. And then they meet this guy, Trilgar, who is a Ilgrathian, but he's also a slave down there who's a thief, but they kind of form an alliance with him. Bottom of page 52 is an example of some of the stuff I really don't like. They would have to make do for a little while longer. Steel and Stormbright had already learned much about themselves in the last several months. In many ways, Trilgar had taken on Steel as an apprentice, with the youth trained in the various ways of the thief. Stormbright was taught with whatever weapons they could keep hidden, skill with the blade growing by leaps and bounds. And it's like, okay, like I understand like training sequences and montages or whatever, they're not like really fun or interesting, but it's like, okay, how is Steel being trained as a thief where they're in these slave pits and it's like pitch blackness? It's like, what is he able to like really steal down there? I guess you could train him to do some stuff, but it feels like, yeah, just a little too sped up, where it's like, I don't know, give me a little like a paragraph of like, he trained with this, he trained with that, I don't know, a little more there. Page 55, there's a fight with this guard. Sorry, bottom page 54. Blood sprayed as the guard lurched forward, landing beside Stormbright and the slave he had protected. With an effort, he righted himself, seeing that Steel was standing along the edge. His brown hair barely masked his hatred as he spat on the corpse. He should have asked first, he said with a smirk. This feels awkward. One, how is his brown hair barely masking his hatred? That just reads a little awkward. Also, he should have asked first. When the slaver was saying, like, you humans are so defiant and worthless, I will see you broken, I will see you begging for your deaths, I don't know. That he should have asked first. That doesn't line up exactly for me. It feels awkward. But there's like this slave riots, and then they end up being taken to these gladiator fights, and Trilgar is killed. And I don't know. I don't know if like the gladiator fights are really necessary for the book. It's just, here's a gladiator fight. Trilgar dies. I don't feel anything because I don't really know him too well, right? Because everything was just super sped up. Where here's Trilgar. We're told that he's trained Steel how to steal, right? But then that's kind of it, right? And then Trilgar is dead. And not that like every character needs like a long drawn out death sequence or something, but if we're supposed to care, if we're supposed to feel like this made an impact on Steel because Trilgar died, then I need to see more of like their relationship. So Adas, he's the human sorcerer who works for the Ilgrathians, but he tries to help the humans, and he ends up giving them a message from their dad. They don't really like, another thing is we don't get into like Zolan or Zarathos's heads too often. I think that's a mistake because like, hey, our dad's out there, but they never think about like stories or thoughts of their father or their dead mom, because they were visiting like their mom's grave in chapter 1 when the storm got them, but they don't think about them too much. I don't know. I could use a little more of that as well. Adas has set the boys up to be taken with this mercenary company down south, so they're going with the Black Tortoise Mercenary Company. We get a little POV from like General Cern, and she has a new sorcerer with her, Dimorn, and he can like summon demons, and they're going to try to use these demons to conquer the city and take out these Star Wraiths, and these are like ghosts that they're keeping the Ilgrathians from taking the city. So bottom of page 82, we have them at this mercenary camp. And then on page 83, the boys they nearly choke up because their lives as slaves and mercenaries are so different. and then they had survived so much, ... But I'm like, okay, they have survived so much, and it's been skimmed over, right? It's been skimmed over, where it's like 2 years passing like 8 pages, and it's like, it's just, yeah, a bit too much telling. So like lines like that, they don't really like hold out with it. I will say as well, like it seems like they don't have much training. They have no military experience, right? But they're going along to fight with these professional mercenaries. And it feels a little weird to me as well, where it's like, okay, we're told they did some training, right? We're told they did some training with like Trilgar, and like I'm sure their warrior dad trained them a bit when they were kids, but there's no flashbacks to that either. I don't think there were. And it's like, okay, like there's a pretty big difference between just training and then like being an actual like professional soldier and actual like mercenary. You know what I mean? Like it's just, there's a big difference between that. So there's that, and then they're like marching, and then they end up marching south, and they end up marching into camp, and that same day, with no rest, no pause, no meal, they head into battle. Like the general gives a little speech, and then they head into battle, and that's it. It's super fast. It's just really, really fast, and it's like I didn't really believe it. I'm like, there's literally no rest. Like these guys have been marching all day, and there's no rest for them. So there was that where it's just like, yeah, we need a little pause here. We need a little pause. Even if it's just like cut to black and then the next morning they're doing the siege. But yeah, I didn't believe it. Page 95. So there's a lot of different names for the boys, because it's Zolan and Zarathos. And then they're also called Steel and Stormbright. And they're also called Thief and Sorcerer. And Steel is called Thief on this page. And he gets called Thief many times, right? And Sorcerer for his brother. And it's like, all right, he's a thief. What has he stolen? What exactly has he stolen? Like, if he stole stuff in the slave pits, it didn't really talk about that, but he gets the title of thief, right? I can believe Sorcerer for Stormbright because he actually does, like, conjure magic, but Steel doesn't really, like, steal anything that we really see, not really. That's really, like, talked about. But basically, the one sorcerer, he like summoned a bunch of demons. I don't know how many demons he can summon, but apparently it's just a fuck ton, like as many as he wants. And the demons are crazy, and they end up killing a lot of their own men. And they fight against these demons. Apparently on page 96, it says they fought for hours without ceasing. I don't believe it. They're not trained warriors. I could believe it with like Stormbright using his like demigod powers, but not really with Steel. That doesn't exactly work for me. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they're slaves. They would have built up endurance through that, but it's very different between like swinging a pickaxe versus like fighting demons, Or it's like, hey, they did build up a lot of endurance because they had to fight off like rapists and cannibals, but those scenes weren't really talked about. You know what I mean? We were just told, right? It didn't really show that. So but the plan with Adus was like to send them down there and then have them join the people in the city to fight against the Empire, right? So that's all gone to plan. They're taken in by the people. On page 105, they've been in the city for a little bit, and Steel says he's like sparring against people, and Stormbright says, I see that you're going harder at it than usual, said Stormbright. Is there something bothering you? Only that my opponents don't come close to beating me. Steel gripped his sparring partner's arm, hoisting the man to his feet. And I'm like, how? How does no one come close to beating you? Like, these people have been under siege for like at least 2 years. They've probably had like a shit ton of combat experience, but you just show up and then no one can beat him. Like, none of these like professional warriors and soldiers can come close to beating this like kid. Right? He's just a little kid. Or he's like, I think it's like 15 or 17. One of them's 15, the other 17. And it's like, I don't know. I don't believe that. That was just like, I don't buy it. Oh, and then like a woman shows up, and then of course she just beats the shit out of him. And this is actually Queen Catalia, and she's the leader of this place. And yeah, we'll cover more of her later. But 107, we have, so they're going after to get this like magic staff that will like help them control the Star Wraiths so they can like fight off the sieging army, right? And there's this conversation here, bottom of 107. 2 years ago, we were little more than slaves ourselves. You and your people have shown us kindness where no one else has, save for Trilgar and Adis. This is one of the few places that reminds me of home. We can't let you be destroyed like we were. We won't let that happen. Steele and I have spoken at length these last several weeks. And if there is a way we could help save you from Alcaron and these Star Wraiths, we will do so. Steele and I have spoken at length these last several weeks. Again, we're told this. Show me one conversation. Show me one talk between the brothers. Give me one conversation between the brothers about this. That's what I really want. Like, and I know it's like, maybe it's not the most interesting stuff, but I still feel like it has to be there. You have to show me a little bit, right? They go on this adventure. They have like this little like air balloon thing, and it's Steel, Stormbright, and Catalia, and they end up going to the like city of the Star Wraiths, and they get the staff, and they get the Star Wraiths to help them as well. On 150, we have Steel having sex with Catalia. And I just wanted to talk about this, where Catalia's arms wrapped around him. There was comfort in her warmth, like two kindred flames finding vitality in one another. Her tresses of raven hair fell from her shoulders, brushing over his own. The thief felt a gentle hand turning his gaze towards her. It was like a dam had been broken. His lips caressed her own, all the fear and sorrow swelling under a series of passionate kisses. They embraced each other, and their lovemaking that night was gentle and fulfilling as the moon stared on jealousy from above, their hearts blazing in silent fury. I want to compare that to a scene in a little bit. Stormbright is doing like kind of this inner like spiritual journey to like talk with the staff and get the staff to like help them. But the scene I wanted to compare it to was when we get to General Surst later on. And General Surst, her chapter, so she's like naked before like this symbol of her goddess, and it's written in a way that's very, very sexualized. It's kind of a pain and pleasure thing, but there's a lot of attention drawn to like her breasts and her curves and her naked body and like foreplay, and it's just, there's a lot of like sexual attention drawn to it, and it's just it's a little weird. It's a little odd for me. And she has two slave girls watching her do this, and they're both little more than 15 years old. It specifically says that in the book. But like, you know what I mean? It's like her smooth legs became entangled with her pillows, her back arched so that her buttocks were more clearly defined. And it talks about her thighs and her moaning and all of that, and like prostrating herself before this statue of her goddess. And I'm saying, like, comparing all of this, and she also molests one of the 15-year-old slave girls. So there's that. All of this compared to that like sex scene from before, which was just like they kiss and then fade to black, and then here's this. It's just what I'm trying to say, does it make sense? Like, can you feel what I'm trying to say? Where there's a lot more like written here, there's a lot more kind of like graphic, I guess, than with Catalia and Steele, who are two like good characters. But here, where it's like it's bad, you're not supposed to like this, but it's very detailed in comparison. Her groping like one of her little female slaves is a lot more detailed than everything that happened between Catalia and Steele. So I don't really like it. It kind of feels like Berserk a little bit, where it's like this is a lot with like Japanese guys, and I don't like it. But it's like, here's this, oh my god, here's this like horrible rape scene, even though like I'm drawing it in such a way that you're clearly supposed to like get off to like the woman being raped or whatever. And I'm not saying like this is a one-for-one comparison to that. That's not what I'm saying. But it's like there's a lot more attention, there's a lot more thought, there's a lot more words put into this than just like our good characters having sex. You know what I mean? Where it's like, here's this like kind of bad stuff that's happening. Also, it's a lot more detailed. I don't know. And I'm probably making it sound like worse than it is. She just like gropes the chest of like one of the little slave girls, but it's also like, but it's still like a little more detailed, right? And it's like, why is it more detailed? I don't know. So it just felt a little fetishy, and I don't know. I didn't really care for it. But, you know, then we have like the final siege where like they're doing the big push, and there's this one character, Yavlet, who's like a warrior for the good guys, and he gets killed on page 177. Didn't care. Our main characters also didn't really care. He was just kind of there. And it's just, yeah, a lot of like little characters, they die, but they didn't really leave an impression. They didn't really like do anything, right? There wasn't like a really great scene with them or whatever. It was just like, here's a checklist, like here's this character, they died. Oh, whatever. 182. So Stormbright has snuck behind enemy lines to try to kill like the enemy sorcerer, so he can't like just summon demons whenever he wants. But here are two like guards on the bad guy side. Don't be foolish, boy, retorted the other one, who sounded much older and more experienced. Our Skiomancer is wounded in our camp, and we are short on healers as is. We must remain here and tend to him while he weaves his magics. Think about our role and how important we are. We are the last remaining defenders between our sorcerer and some assassin. It's a little too on the nose for them to talk about, hey, by the way, we are the only protection in camp. We're the last warriors. It's a little too much. And then Stormbright on 183 says Stormbright smiled, even though he wasn't an expert in stealth like his brother. How is Steel an expert? You know, how is he really an expert in stealth when he's had time to practice it, when he has had time to show that he's an expert in stealth? I don't believe it. 189, Catalia is killed by General Surst. Yeah, she died, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't really know her, you know, and it's like the thought of Catalia's death dominated his mind, and it's like, okay, it's like, you know, Catalia showed up, she beat him in a duel. They then went on to like explore the Star Wraiths city. They came back. They were there for a few days where like he was looking out for her because like some people had tried to like fuck her over and like betray them to the bad guys. But that's also just really told. And then, you know, they have sex, and then there's the battle and she's killed. It's like, I don't know. I don't really know her super well, right? I don't really know her that well. So she dies, and it's like, yeah. They drive them off. The general swears revenge on the boys, and she's out there. The boys, they're going to keep moving. You know, they're still going to like fight against their enemies. And that's the end of the book. And it was just like, yeah, like I don't mean to like be a dick, but just being like, yeah, just speaking honestly, what do I like? Very serious problems with pacing, and it's just like a lot of moments where it's like, I don't believe that. I don't know if that doesn't feel earned to me. Just a lot of moments like that. It's like, would I read more? Probably not. Probably not if I'm just being honest, you know, just I don't see the point of doing these reviews if I just like say, oh, I really liked it or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I didn't care for it. Had a lot of problems with it. Sorry. I try to just like do reviews where it's just like, hopefully they're all just recommendations, but sometimes they're not. And I still want to talk about it because I had read it, you know. Also, the book is hardcover. I think that's the only like edition you can get through Amazon, so it's like $25. So that was a little on the pricier end for like indie books. I felt like the price was kind of steep, and then I also didn't like the book a lot. So I also kind of want to talk about it to like at least get something out of it. Okay, next. So next, these are going to be faster reviews. I'm just going to kind of, you know, just gloss through them. We're going to go kind of fast. But we have the Death Tales of Ulster. So for this guy, I've seen some of his stuff on Twitter, get like reposted and whatever. I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but this is Grauman Folkwald, and he had a little comic that came out called The Death Tales of Ulster, and these are just a few tales about Irish mythology, specifically from like the Ulster cycle and about Ulster. Ulster is the northern province of Ireland. They're not bad, but the art style is just something that you'll like or you enjoy or good with, or you will not really enjoy or like, and it's very kind of hit or miss. And it's not necessarily bad, but I just wanted to point that out. But the author seems to be a guy on this side of things, so I thought, you know, I'll talk about it. You know, people can check him out, and if you want to read it, go for it. I will say, to like really enjoy this, it kind of expects you to have some background in Irish mythology. So I would say maybe read up on a little bit of Irish mythology first before kind of getting this. That would be my recommendation. A good book for it would be Gods and Fighting Men by Lady Gregory. It's one of my favorites. I really like it. It's great for Irish mythology. Really recommend it. But that covers like the mythological cycle. It covers like Finn McCool. It covers Cuchulainn, the Ulster cycle, all of it, like all the big stuff it covers. I think it's really good. But the other comic series was The Hound, and this is about Cuchulainn, and this is about the Toyne. This is the cattle raid of Cooley, and this is one of the big Irish myths, right? And this was decent. It has its own spin on it, of course. And yeah, I felt this was fine. It wasn't my favorite. Would I like read it again? Or I read it online for free. Would I buy it? Not really. I felt it was just like fine. But I want to go into some Irish mythology stuff. I'd still recommend, if you're going to check that out, read Gods and Fighting Men first. Read Gods and Fighting Men first. I think it's very good. 2 movies I saw that I thought were not great, but these are both free, and they were fine to okay. If you can just find them on YouTube in good quality, good definition, all of that. There was The Stuff. It's this movie about like there's this new kind of yogurt thing. Turns out it's actually alive and turning people into monsters, and it has its own like thoughts and all that. It's kind of like a fuck you to like consumerism and stuff. Basically, at the very end of the day, like some right-wing militia guys kind of saved the day, so it was kind of cool. That was kind of interesting. But it's just like, it's a very okay movie. I probably wouldn't watch it again. And then Flight of the Phoenix, this is an older movie. This is about some guys, their plane crashes in the like Sahara or just some desert in like Africa or the Middle East. And they're just like, they're trapped out there. They have to ration their water. Like, is anyone coming to save us? So they have to like build a new plane to get out of there. And this was fine. It was like a little over 2 hours, close to 2.5. And it was just an okay movie. As I'm recording this, it's like Sunday night. It's really late Sunday night. And the recording, it's like, I need to be in bed in like 15 minutes. Because I have a pretty long day tomorrow at work, and I don't think I'm going to get this done. There's no fucking way, because I'm looking at it, and the recording's like an hour and 25 minutes right now. It's an hour and 25 minutes right now, and I haven't edited anything or put together anything, so it's not going to happen. This is not coming out Sunday like I want. That's fucking gay. Maybe Tuesday night. This might come out Tuesday night or Wednesday. That's the hope. But for next week, I don't think there's going to be a trough. I'm going to be going through 3 books from DMR. This is a publisher I previously covered. Hopefully I like them, but I'm thinking like 2 weeks to get through those. But something I'm going to talk about for next weekend. Next weekend, I'm going to be talking about Empire Falls. This is a little mini-series. It's not really long. The mini-series for Empire Falls, it's about 3 hours. It's a little over 3 hours, I want to say, but it's a stacked cast about this really small town. It's got Ed Harris, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Paul Newman, just a bunch of people, but it's about the small town. It's about Ed Harris. He works at this diner. He runs this little diner, and he just... it's really just a focus on like there are like connections between all of the people, and I really like it. I really, really like it. But Ed Harris, yeah, he works at this crappy diner job, but he does it for his daughter. He does it for his daughter. He does it to give her a better life, right? That's all he can really work for. That's all he can really do, is to give his daughter a better life. I really enjoy it. This is going to be the 3rd time I've seen it, but I thought I would just talk about something that I've seen and really liked, because, I've checked out a couple comics, a couple movies. They were kind of so I'm going to talk about one of the good ones, and I don't know if everyone's seen Empire Falls, but I wanted to say, give people some heads up, like, hey, check out Empire Falls, because it's definitely a recommendation from me. And if you do check it out, and then by the time, my talk on Empire Falls come out, probably Sunday, then you can just watch it from the get-go. But I really like it. Small town, stacked cast, great writing. I like the miniseries more than the book. I think it's a better adaptation. So I know this is a longer video. I know that's not great or ideal, but I didn't want to make like 3 videos, you know what I mean? Where it's like, here I'm talking about Mixtape, and then here I'm talking about these 2 movies I didn't really like and didn't want to do a separate video on, and then here are these 2 comics that I felt were just okay. It's like, I would rather just kind of bundle it all together, and then you can just like listen to the one thing you're interested in, and then if you want to listen to the rest and me just kind of complain about these things or briefly discuss them, that's fine. Otherwise, you can just tap out rather than just like bothering people if like, here's 3 videos, and then like 2 of the videos are like really low effort because I'm just like packaging together stuff I don't really care for. I don't know about that, but yeah, this is a long one. Sorry, but I was trying to make up for not having anything last time, so I thought I'd kind of stack this. Check out Mixtape Hyperborea for sure. Check out Empire Falls for sure. Gonna talk about it. It's gonna be really good. That's it. Thanks for watching. White Pill Media out.
Don't leave me here alone! Not without anyone to hate!